Up.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to Making a Difference TV. I'm your host, Brian Porter, and today I have a man named Stephen Garvey. He's done something that very few people do. He's a remarkable Canadian. He started his own political party, National Advancement Party of Canada. Welcome to Making a Difference TV, Stephen.
Thank you, Brian, for having me. And I should qualify that it's not just me, but I was the founder, but we have a lot of people helping me, and we're all working together.
Beautiful, beautiful. So it was sort of a committee-based startup?
I'm a visionary, and I'm a Canadian patriot. I'm highly educated. I went to University of Cambridge. I've written books, and this is my life, and everything's led to this point. And I've got no strings attached, and I want to do what's best for the country. And I feel we need a change in Canada, and we're bringing it through the National Advancement Party of Canada.
Beautiful. So you're out in Calgary, is that true?
Yes, I live in Calgary. I was born in Montreal. I went to UBC in Vancouver, BC, and I did my master's in University of Cambridge in the UK. But so I know both the West. I know the prairies, and also I know the East.
All around Canadian. Boy, I noticed on your bio that you also used to be on, was it the Olympic rowing team?
I was on the national rowing team for Canada. I competed at the World Championships in 1989 in Bled, Yugoslavia.
Oh, so cool.
And then I went on to other things. It's a really demanding sport, and I competed in rowing in high school, and I took it further and went on to the national team.
Beautiful. Man, I never get phone calls, but sorry about that. So you have an interesting background. You were an athlete. You're obviously someone who goes for it in life. You don't mess around, and that's what you need to be a leader of a political party. What would you say what would distinguish you from, say, the other parties? What would be the main platforms?
Well, I think the key thing about the National Advancement Party, we're proud nationalists. And our core group is made up of patriot warriors who want to put Canada first. And we're probably, outside of that, another key difference is that we're non-ideological. And what I mean is that because we're driven by the Canadian people putting them first, we will do whatever it takes. We're not defined by a set ideology, whether on the right or the left. We will go right or left if that's in the best interest of the Canadians. And that's where we separate ourselves from all these establishment parties. Another thing that separates us is, I would argue, our conviction, our integrity, our patriotism for this country. We have no strings attached. We have a single agenda, and that's to put the Canadian people first.
Sounds a bit like Donald Trump, eh? Let's make Canada great again versus the U.S.
No, we don't use that slogan. We wish him the best in his presidency, because if he's successful, we'll be more successful as a country. So we're hoping he has success, but we don't. We are authentic to ourselves. Some of Trump's ideas I already had before he was running in the primaries. A lot of Trump's stuff. A lot of his campaign stuff, if you look at the core, it's similar to us, and it actually goes to Abraham Lincoln and his message of government of, by, and for the people. And that's something I truly believe. I ran the Foundation for Democratic Advancement for at least over 12 years, and this was all about democracy and how we can improve it in Canada and around the world. So this is our core down below. We want to empower Canadians. We want to restore our democracy. That's our, that's down below in us, in our internal values.
Well, what are some of the mechanisms that you've come up with that will make Canada more democratic? Like some people,
Yeah. Well,
plebiscite.
100%. Yeah, I encourage people to go to our website, nationaladvancementparty.ca, and we have a whole list of reforms there. But one of them is we want to legislate so that Canadians can hold a national referendum of non-confidence and remove the prime minister and or the federal government between elections. We believe the sovereign political voice rests with the people, and that they should have that right. Another thing we want is recall by constituents of any MP, including the prime minister. We also have citizen initiated legislation. Also, we have like a national platform so that the people can override the parliament on legislation and actually vote on it. And the vote of the people will trump the representatives in the parliament. We want to empower Canadians. We want to give it back to them. You know, democracy is all about the people. Myself as a leader and National Advancement Party members, we are just messengers of the people. We are here to serve the people and no one else. That's it. And I'm convinced, our party's convinced, if you truly serve the people, all good things will follow for those people. All good things. And the problem in our system is that we got the special interests, the lobbyists, the globalists, international elites with all their strings attached. And then we have self-serving politicians. So Canadians are not coming first in Canada because they're not being served. It's all rhetoric. But when you cut through it, they're not being served. We're going to change that. We're going to come in there because we're all new faces. We're going to kick every table over in that parliament, and we're gonna resurrect Canada like no one's ever seen before.
So let me ask about the mechanism around how you're going to practically. Sounds to me like you want to digest the sentiments of Canada through some sort of feeler system in terms of the sentiments of how people feel about different issues. Are you going to like hold like online polling on issues and listen to like say the issue is well, I'll throw a big one out there like abortion. Do you think the Canadian government should be paying for abortions?
So
look to the Canadian people for their opinion and go with the majority. How would this, plebiscite system work?
Yeah, fair enough. We definitely support national referendums for significant issues, also significant moral issues. In our abortion policy, we take a neutral stance to abortion. We recognize all the different, the pro-choice, the pro-life, and then you got fetus rights. So our position right now is we don't believe the government should be funding abortion, and that also we believe that we should hold a national referendum on fetus rights. And because it's not for us to dictate to the people our moral views, we want to. It's the people that should be dictating to us their moral view, and so we would hold a referendum on that. And because right now there's a huge gray area on fetus rights, and this is something our country needs to deal with. Another issue is capital punishment. The National Advancement Party does not support Bill C-68, which bans capital punishment in Canada. We believe mass murderers, terrorists who are mass murder terrorists, child rapists, conspiracy to commit mass murder, they should be subject to capital punishment. Just like that guy in Quebec City who gunned down six innocent people in that mosque. But for us, again, this is a moral issue, and we would put that to a national referendum because, again, it's not for us to dictate it to the people. We want to know what the people want. So we would, make sure that they're informed on all the issues, and they can do their own research, and then we would hold a referendum on a national binding referendum. And hopefully we can have capital punishment back in Canada for these serious, egregious crimes. You know, the taxpayers shouldn't have to be paying for these people to stay out their life in prison. And don't get me wrong, we have a lot of compassion for people. You know, they strayed the wrong path, Brian. And but these egregious crimes, like for example in Paris, when those murderous thug terrorists went into the Balaclava theater and gunned down 130 plus innocent people in cold blood. That is the epitome of sickness. And in our opinion, those people should face capital punishment. They don't deserve to be living. And that's our position on it. But we will never impose that on the people.
Yeah, I'm quite sympathetic to that point of view, actually. I honestly believe that, based upon my knowledge of satanic cults, these sorts of people, is that the way there, the halfway point there is pedophilia. And I worked with kids for 22 years. I had my own group home for 6 years. I saw the effects of this sort of stuff on children. I read a lot about it. I studied it. And people who do this sort of crime, I don't think deserve to be alive. We have to draw a line somewhere in the sand. And we protect them in prisons. It costs us extra to keep them. There are certain basic fundamental requirements for being alive. And one of them is you don't hurt children. You don't do mass murder. I have no issues with that, but I think I like your problem solution. Go to the people, have a debate, give people time to talk about it, go on TV, go on talk shows, listen to the Canadian people, and then have this is great. I love, there's many other democracies. Switzerland is famous for having referendums on many, many issues. They have like 6 referendums a year at least in Switzerland. And they go by them. They're binding. So this is being done in other countries.
Of course, yeah. What a beautiful place Canada would be, wouldn't it? If the actual people had a voice after elections, and also on these critical issues. And who are these establishment parties to dictate to us whether we have capital punishment or not? And it's totally wrong. And so we want to restore democracy and put it back into the people's hands. And those are only a few of the things that we support. But here's another one, the Canadian Senate. These establishment parties have been arguing and doing nothing about this crony Canadian Senate. And so it's about time that that this goes to a national binding vote of the people that would be constitutionally binding on what we should do about the Senate. And this is in our Senate policy. And right now we have 3 options, Brian. That is to keep the Senate the same, to absolve it, or to have an elected Senate. It's part of the cronyism in the federal government. So it's kind of, we're doing a number of things with this referendum. We're actually empowering the people. We're dealing with the cronyism, and combined, it's helping to advance Canada. National Advancement Party. That's what we're about. We want to advance Canada that way. So we would definitely hold a referendum on the Senate. And
3 options, and you take the one that was most popular, or would you just give 2 options?
Right now, our policy looks at 3 options. Keep the same, absolve, or elected Senate right now. But that's our basic policy. But if we wanted to narrow it down to 2, we would have to justify that, using logic and sound reasons. But right now, it's 3 options.
Okay, and I like this idea of direct democracy. I actually want to, my political perspective is to make everything a lot smaller and more accountable at the grassroots level. But I'm not here to talk about my political perspectives. I'm more into what you're doing, and it sounds to me, it sounds, from what I've heard already, it's the best political party. It would be the best political party we get to have in Canada since its inception. I mean, we really haven't taken advantage of our democratic system by not having plebiscites. What do you think about having 3 levels of government in a country of 36 million people? I mean, there are cities almost that size, and we have 3 levels of government. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so you're basically saying it's inefficient, and yeah, there's lots of inefficiency in Canada, and you know, we're not afraid to talk the truth at the National Advancement Party. We're not driven by votes and power. We're driven by the best interests of the people, and I'll give you one example: the equalization payouts. Now, I call them handouts, and this started in 1957 through the Conservative Party, and the basic idea is that all provinces should have the same services and basic quality of life. So the unproductive provinces get handouts from the productive provinces, and Quebec is the biggest beneficiary of that. And unfortunately, in 1982, Pierre Trudeau had the equalization payouts embedded in the Canadian Charter under 36.2, which right now constitutionally bounds this equalization program. My issue and the NA issue is that, again, it's rewarding unproductivity. It's not allowing the provinces to compete, and we're not being as competitive as a country, and it's hurting competition within the country. You know, we support free market competition. It's going to bring out the best in all of us. So our position is we want that rescinded. We want the equalization payout rescinded. We would do it over a transition period, but you know, that welfare entitlement is really hurting our country. You know, the world is extremely competitive economically, and we can't afford to have those things dragging us down. Also, you know, our confederation shouldn't be based on extortion to one province. We have to do what's best for the country. So at the National Advancement Party, you know, we're all business, and we're going to play hardball, and we're not going to be do things that are counter to the best interests of this country.
Yeah, right now, a lot of people are saying that Quebec is getting the best deal on equalization.
Well, it's only that, it's hurting the country. It's making us less competitive, less efficient. And it's causing, you know, it's rewarding handouts. It's a handout, hand down, instead of a hand up. You know,
have you ever lived in Ottawa?
Yes, I did, but I was extremely young. I lived there for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. I lived there for 35 years. Just recently returned to Toronto. My personal perspective is that you could get rid of 75% of the bureaucrats in Ottawa and nobody would notice.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
It's that inefficient.
Yeah, exactly.
Policy on top of policy on top of policy. Yeah. It's basically a make-work project. People in Ottawa are making huge bucks. They all have 4 cars, beautiful homes, 2 cottages. I mean, it's bloody real. Their kids go to Europe every summer. I mean, it's not. I mean, I wish everybody in Canada had the same standard, but it's really like a posh country club, Ottawa.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent point, Brian. I'm so happy you brought that up because we have a new policy. It's called anti-cronyism, and we focus on that crony Senate, and also the crony bureaucracy, federal bureaucracy. And I mentioned the national referendum we want to have on the Senate, so hopefully that will deal with that. In terms of the federal bureaucracy, what we want to do is have a 12-year employment limit on all bureaucrats. So, and then this would allow other Canadians to serve the Canadian people and help prevent the cronyism. And you know, there's more to that policy. We would transition the existing employees out, and we the new hires, all new federal hires, would have a maximum 12-year life in the federal government, and we think this would do a lot to cut down on the bureaucracy and the cronyism there, and entitlements and feeding off the system. You know, this is not serving the Canadian people.
Yeah, well, I mean, if everybody could live the same, I'd be all for it. But they're siphoning out a huge amount of tax base, and they're providing at best 10% efficiency, in my opinion. Um, I know so many people who I used to hang out with these people, and they tell me what. I knew a woman who worked for the Department of Justice, and she said the biggest joke was that the lawyers who lived in Newfoundland would be assigned to cases for Vancouver because they like to travel on the government. This is one of the biggest jokes. So they'd run up the big hotel bills, but this is the modus operandi of government right now. Is find the most expensive way to do something, and because it seems to be almost an unlimited flow. Deficits are an issue, right? Oh, no problem. Deficits. There's no end of money, right? Let's just run up the deficit.
No, we're gonna
all over the world, Stephen, is that every country is going to go going down under these huge deficits. And if we don't reel this stuff in, we're going to be like Greece soon.
100%, Brian. Look at the federal government just suppressed a financial report that projected that the federal debt by 2045 would be around 1.5 trillion, and that's not including the provincial debt. It's out of control. We have a socialist nanny entitlement system. And you know what's really sickening is our current prime minister at the Davos Economic Forum was bragging about the nanny welfare system and big government and how much he supports that, and he thinks it's a great part of Canada. You know, it's a joke. And this prime minister, I'm really critical of him. I was just on radio last night. I basically said, like, this guy is so unqualified. I feel like he should be pumping gas at a gas station, not being prime minister. He just doesn't have the qualifications or the aptitude. He doesn't. He's not connected to the people. He's already caught up in ethics, but that's off topic. But I agree with you. We have to deal with this massive bureaucracy and these people that are serving themselves. And that's exactly what you said. They're gouging the taxpayers. This is not serving the people. This is entitlements. This is cronyism. And we got to go there and kick it out. And, we don't have the strings attached. We're not part of that establishment elite. So we're the best people to go in there and kick things over. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, just basic common sense would dictate that you could get rid of half of them. I know the people. I lived there. I hung out with these people. I socialized. I played a lot of sports, so I played tennis, and the Solicitor General of Canada, Attorney General of Canada, he wanted me to run for the party way back in the 80s. And his name was Bob Kaplan. Well, when he retired, he got this plum position with Petro Kazakhstan over in Kazakhstan. Well, I figured he made about $300 million before it was all done. So they're making money in and then outside. Now, bless his soul, he's passed away since then. But I mean, this is the reason people go into government, is to get the inside track on business stuff. What's happening? They retire, they get some plum job. On top of that, they're not meeting the basic. They should be running government the way we run a home. A home. We're trying to basically live within our capacity to do things. And if we can't afford to go on a trip this year, then we cut back. This is what responsible parents do, or individuals. But governments, they have no restriction on how much they spend. And like I say, they literally go out of their way to waste money. It's unbelievable. Unbloody real. I mean, I wish everyone would, we need a camera on this. I'd love to have, everybody's being spied on now. I'd love to have a rule that said that anybody who's in politics has to have everything they do recorded nonstop. It's sort of like your commitment to be a politician. You're going to have every discussion you have recorded. No privacy while you're in government. Because there's so much going on that's so underboard, so corrupt. It's across the board. It's in every country. We have to do something serious here, because what we're looking at is in worldwide economic depression, in my opinion.
you don't get this under control.
Yeah, 100%. There's bubbles everywhere, and we have a massive bubble in Canada. The healthcare system is out of control. We can't afford it. Again, it comes back to the structure of Canada. It's all this socialist, this entitlements, the welfare everywhere. I touched on the equalization payments. They aren't the only ones. And we got to come to grips with this. That's the one good thing I see about President Trump is he's going to accelerate that process. He's going to show all our weaknesses. And we're going to be forced to change.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he hasn't actually looked to cut down the size of the government there, the federal bureaucracies. But
who's that? Oh, the current government?
Trump.
Oh, he is. He's cutting all the regulation. He's put a freeze on regulations. He said he's going to cut about 75% of the regulation in the federal government.
Yeah, but he's not laying anybody off. That's my point.
Oh, he laid off the acting attorney general yesterday.
Well, yeah, but he replaced her right away. So
yeah, but give him a break, Brian, because he doesn't have his he's only got four of his cabinet appointments selected.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
so cut him slack.
I'm looking forward. We'll get to some of the points that we may disagree on soon, but yeah, I want to see government cut.
100%.
Somehow, when we lived with almost no government, I don't know if you agree with me on the history of taxation, but after the Second World War, taxation, there was a tax to create money to fund the war. That tax was never taken back when it was supposed to be. It was promised to the people in Canada and the US, we're going to take off this war tax. But they hung on to it, and then that was the beginning of unending taxes on taxes on taxes. And we're at the point now where our economy is going to go under if we don't stop taxing everyone because they're not going to have any money left to spend. And that's the point. That's what happens in places like Greece. People they have nothing left at in their paycheck. And I see the waste in Ottawa, and then I see the poverty and the people who work in minimum wage jobs barely can make it. It just makes me furious how little compassion that these people have. They have a damn good job and benefits coming up. They live in another world, Stephen, an absolutely different world than the rest of us that work in the private sector.
Oh, yeah, that's an excellent point. Taxation's out of control. We want to rescind the carbon tax. We have a policy of cutting back regulation, cutting the bureaucracy, cutting out the cronyism. What else? We want to restructure the country. Want to deal with the welfare entitlements. We're talking major revolution of this country. It's heading down the wrong track. And you're right. And not only that, taking the high taxes is hurting the economy because people can't set up, their own businesses and invest in other businesses. It's hurting it from that standpoint. So this is really detrimental. And but it starts with the federal government, like you were saying, Brian. That's where it starts. We need to cut that bureaucracy, cut out all the stuff we've been talking about. And we need to make it what we call is efficient, effective government. That's the term we use. We don't just say small or, a small government. We say it should be efficient, effective government. And what the National Advancement Party would do if we were in power, we would go through every department, every agency, and cut what is not efficient and effective for the Canadian people. And also, what can we afford, right? And
I heard Paul Martin. Actually, he was one of the more responsible finance ministers. He 1 year or over a couple of years, he said we're going to have 3% negative growth on the civil service, and he suspended all hiring. And he made back, I think, quite a substantial, and he got to the point where the government actually had a surplus. That might be something you might consider doing, is set some strict limits on growth in government.
Oh, but yeah,
And
but the
policy saying that you cannot do any hires over a certain period of time. The other thing is what really, this is, I'm glad I remembered this. What these people do in the federal government, and I'm sure they do it in other, maybe in the provincial government, I don't know if it's allowed. These guys, they at 60 or whatever, they retire. They have to take a year off, and then they come back, full pension, and they get paid as a consultant. Some of these people are making $1,200 a day as a consultant, working for the same department they left, and it's not against the law.
wow.
Unreal.
Okay, I made note of that. So what kind of limit on growth would you have, Brian?
Well, Paul Martin had a 3%. His target was 3% over 2 years. He wanted to shrink the size of and that was based on attrition, right? There's about a 3% retirement, and that really brought down the deficit tremendously. Because there's money going out in payments and retirement benefits and whatnot. But another thing that would really be good is you stop this. What's the term they use for it? There's a term, but when you retire, you have to retire, and if you come back, it's voluntary. You don't get paid $1,200 a day to come back. Double dipping.
Oh, double dipping, yeah.
Get this incredible pension that no one else gets.
Yeah.
They get incredible benefits.
Yeah.
Right. And then they can go back a year later and make, like, I know people that are in the top level of the government, and they be making $1,200, $1,500 a day as a consultant. It's bloody real.
Yeah.
This stuff that's going on. And it's like there's no end to the greed.
Wow.
At least in the private sector.
Wow.
You've worked for it. Usually. I mean, there's obviously a silver spoon guy, who was born rich. But the vast majority of people in the private sector have to work hard to make it. My brother-in-law, he worked, 16 hours a day for 25 years. He's, for IBM. That guy worked his stuff off. These people in government are just unbloody real. It's just like a trough, and they just suck as much as they can out of it. It just infuriates me to all hell. And they don't.
Yeah. No, it's a really. Yeah. Excellent points, Brian. I made note of them here. I just want to comment. We don't have a strict limit on growth, but our approach is to actually go through every agency, every department, and do an evaluation of it, and cut and slash wherever we think is necessary. And that's how we will reduce the government and get it down. We're not just going to do an arbitrary number of 3%. We're going to go through in there, and we're going to just cut what is unnecessary. And, I'm going to add consultants into our policy, because that's something we need to add in there, because they're just fleecing it the way you're describing it as well. And I don't know about the people listening, but this must just make you sick inside, because I've worked hard for every penny I've had. I've never had a handout, and I've never fed off the welfare system ever. And I know it's there to help some people, and we pay into unemployment insurance, and if you're unemployed, you should be able to be entitled to that, Brian. So I have no issue with some Canadians taking advantage of the safety nets out there, but this is obscene. What's going on?
It isn't. Be honest with you, it isn't the welfare. It isn't the people screwing the lower end. It's the people, the white collar crime. Okay. It's basically minimized white collar crime is what's destroying this country. That, to me, that's what it is, and it's mostly government. It's so bad that I think if you uncovered it and you made it public, that people would say, "Hey, this has got to stop." This Senate thing is similar, but this is like across the board, brother. This is like the other thing that's going on in government. And I can tell this because I worked on. A lot of my friends were smart, top, CAs, this kind of stuff. They would get basically hired to do the job of someone in government who was getting paid to do the same job. So they get to hire a consultant to do their job. because they didn't, basically, they a lot of people in government have a part-time, have a business outside of government that they run while they're working there, while they're doing their job. And that's how corrupt it is. That would be another good policy, that if you're in government, you cannot run a private company at the same time. That's going on too.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. And then you know what's striking about our conversation, we haven't even talked about the pay to play, the pay to access. That's going on. Look at the Trudeau Foundation. It's exploding with donations. That guy's been the Prime Minister's been implicated, cuddling up with billionaires and all kinds of special interests. There's billions of Canadians dollars that have been sent overseas. There's no accountability of that. You know, Canadians are just getting fleeced, and that's why we say they're coming last, Brian. And these cronies and trough feeders and people who are just out for themselves they come first, and whoever's they're connected to. Hey, Brian?
Yeah, and then in the end, you know, they walk away. You know, but in the end, what happened was, like, say, Greece, the situation in Greece, is that they had to cancel all the pensions. They had to lay everybody off. So in the end, cut in their own throats, because we cannot have so much waste. Because at some point, you know, the trough, you know, whatever you want to call it, there's a debt limit, and then at some point you just can't pay them, and then everything falls apart.
Exactly.
And this is where we're heading. We're heading to economic collapse, and then they're going to fleece our resources. We're going to give everything away. It's just we should be the richest nation on earth. We are the only nation that sits beside the United States with 10 times the population, and we sell to them. I mean, it's unbloody real. We're in the most advantageous position economically of any country on earth. Okay, and we're doing this. It just blows me away. Everybody in Canada should have a high income if we did it right. If we got rid of this government and we created more business, I favor natural green economy, because half the planet's dead now, unfortunately, because of the way we've developed things technologically. So we have to get into a green economy. That's one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because economic development in the future has to be green orientated, or we're going to kill ourselves, not just financially, but ecologically. We're in big trouble. I'm not talking CO2 here. I'm talking toxins. I'm talking genetically modified organisms. I'm talking about industrial farming. I'm talking about other issues. What's your party position
on what? Which particular policy, Brian?
Well, GMO.
We wanted. You know, this is going off the top of my head, but we have a food security policy. I encourage people to go to our website and look that up. I'm a longtime gardener. I grow all the food, the produce for my family. It's a hobby of mine. It's something I've been doing for a long time. I'm also into canning, and you know, I make my own wine. I make beer, and I believe in self-sufficiency. Personally, that's a bit about me. But in terms of our policy, we want mandatory GMO labeling. We want a review of what's organic and what isn't. And we want to shift our Canadian agriculture from this uni agriculture to a poly agriculture, where it's more mixed, because we're killing off the bees, right? We're killing off our ecosystem, and it's just not sustainable practice. So we would hopefully transition through incentives for the private sector to have more diverse agriculture in Canada. That's a big thing for us.
We incentivized all this poisoning of the environment. All this stuff was incentivized through government.
Yes.
I mean, you experiment on a farm, they have goats there that have spider webs in their milk. I mean, it's disgusting.
Wow.
Breeding everything.
Yeah.
They're growing pigs now, and they're for human organ transplant.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this stuff, I don't know spiritually where you sit. I think you believe in non-alignment, but I mean, come on, we're starting to mess with some pretty ghastly things, and we're starting to grow human organs in pigs. I mean,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, we have Brian, we have a pretty comprehensive wildlife policy. Um, Federal legislation regarding animal cruelty is almost dry. It's so backward and out of date, and we want to step that up and protect our wildlife animals from cruelty and also the domestic animals. How we treat our animals and our wildlife is reflective of us as a people, and if we treat them better, and especially the domestic ones, it's going to be better food for us. It'll probably be a little more expensive, but I think it's be better in the long run for us. And
yeah, if you eat real food, you don't get sick.
Exactly.
Their costs are off.
And look good. Yeah.
Not getting sources of food.
And look at all the antibiotics and go to some of these farms and look at the chickens. Like it's sickening to look at them, and they've been so genetically altered they can't even stand up, Brian, and they're just fat and just sitting, and that's what we're eating. So we need to take a hard look at this. But I have to balance this. We have a lot of natural resources in this country. National Advancement Party accepts that the world is, we accept the scientific evidence that the world is getting warmer. There is dispute over what's causing it, but we definitely accept that it is getting warmer. But as far as we're concerned, Canada's contribution to climate change is pretty minimal. It's like 1.5% or less. It may, in fact, Canada may be carbon neutral due to all the carbon sinks. So from, getting back on the theme of government incentives, we think we'd be far better off providing more incentives for the private sector to increase the efficiency of oil and gas extraction and processing and transportation.
What about fuel production, like hemp diesel? Henry Ford had a car that ran on hemp diesel back in the 30s. Plus, he had an alcohol-based car.
Right.
There are options to sucking oil out of it, and people can make money in many ways. We don't have to only use oil.
100%, yeah. So we want to, what we want to do at the National Advancement Party too, as part of our economic policy, is just ramp up the entrepreneurial spirit of this country. It's like what you're saying, and we want to encourage people to take these ventures on, and it's going to benefit everyone. And that's a shift away from the nanny, big government welfare and liberal, establishment mentality. We want an entrepreneurial spirit in this country like we've never seen before. And that's going to come through cutting the government, getting lower regulation, lower taxes so people have more money to invest and spend, and bring it on, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
it's all.
What's your position on NATO and NORAD? Do you think we should be in a defensive alliance with the U.S. and there's an area that we may have some disagreement on, but I'm not a big fan of the military-industrial complex. I'm not a fan of the fact that we're part of an alliance. The U.S. has 175 military bases in other countries. Or no, they have bases in 175 other countries. We are part of this alliance. They have 1,000 bases off their country. They basically are trying to run the planet. Now, I know we have to be friends with them because we're completely tied in economically, but do we need to be part of these military alliances that basically are creating a world that greatly favors them on trade, access to natural resources from other countries? Shipping is destroying the planet. 90% of what we have in right now that we consume is coming from not just from other countries, but across oceans, and they're being acidified because we use bunker fuel in these ships. The worst fuel on Earth is used in these ships. It's acidifying. See, it isn't the driving a car, Stephen, is my contention that's killing this planet. It's the shipping of everything. I want to do stuff local. I want to do stuff within Canada. I want to rejuvenate the economy within Canada and stop using Chinese and Taiwanese labor. What do you think of that?
We're 100% behind that. What you're talking about is globalism. And the federal government is in bed with these globalists and socialists, and it's harming our country. We want smart trade for Canada, and we also want to encourage localism. Globalism is a joke. It's contributing to the warming of the planet. It's like you said. I'm eating an apple from from South America, whereas I could be eating something else. I'm eating banana, right?
We have a lot of apples around where I live, I'll tell you. And they
exactly. Get this, Brian. Brian, get this. This is unbelievable. I was in Ottawa attending something for the elections, Canada. I went into one of the marquee delis. I went to get a bottle of water. It wasn't from Canada. It was from France. This is globalism. It's inefficient. It doesn't make sense. And so we need to have smart trade. We need trade that is in the benefit of the Canadian people, not special interests, not establishment elites. We need trade that's not going to undermine our sovereignty and us as a people. Look at TIPA, the Chinese agreement. It allows them to come in. There's special tribunals. You know all about this. We're against that. They can override our laws.
Yeah.
So it's investor rights over our rights. Come on. So fortunately, Trump is doing something in this area. But I want to get back to what you were talking about before, NATO. Well, Trump was right during the election. We're gonna call a spade, okay? So he was right that NATO was obsolete. It wasn't dealing with the threats that were out there now, which is the main one is terrorism, right? So now they've actually created a department that's dealing with that. And but our big issue is the UN. We see this as just like the federal government, Brian. It's all this cronyism and it's all this inefficient bureaucracy, and also it's being used to attack Israel unfairly, as far as we're concerned. And we want to cut back our contributions to this organization. We feel it's lost track. It's not making the world any safer, and it's part of the globalist movement. So that's one area where Canada should pull back from. We want to minimize our funding to the UN.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, so you wouldn't pull out of NATO and NORAD?
Well, we would
wants countries to pay their share. I mean, he wants them to do more if they want to be in these alliances, because he's saying that the U.S. is paying extra. Well, why do they have 200 military bases in Germany alone? I mean, they don't need all this stuff there. So it's partly their own fault, in my opinion. But anyways, I won't get too
hold on a sec, Brian. I want to touch on that.
Do we need to be aligned? You're saying you're a nationalist, which is good. I'm all for Canada first. Beautiful. Let's create an economy where we produce what we need here first. If we can't grow bananas here, well, maybe we have to import some stuff. But first, we look to Canadian businesses to create what we need. I think that's crucial. That'll bring back all the good jobs, and we can cut back on government jobs, and then these people can actually learn to work for a living.
Yeah,
it'd be a wonderful world if people actually had to earn an honest living.
Yeah, the world's extremely dangerous, Brian. It's getting more dangerous. So we would have to evaluate what you're saying closely, and I'm not going to state a position on that right now. But whatever we decide would be in the best interest of the Canadian people. But mistake not, this world is becoming more violent. Arms and are proliferating. Different arms. We got drones now, and look at North Korea is going to be developing a nuclear bomb potentially. Look at Iran; it keeps getting closer to that end game. So it's a very, very dangerous world. So. Quite frankly, we're lucky to be aligned with the U.S. They are the superpower. They are an empire. Let's face it, they're an empire, and they're helping us to keep us safe. there's a good chance that we're going to face a world war in our lifetime, Brian. It's things are not good, and so if we need to be aligned. We need to be working with our allies. But I should emphasize, if you look at our foreign policy, we do not, Brian, support nation building, going into a country and posing our ways on them, for economic reasons, for political reasons. We believe in going in there. We believe, we have three grounds for war, which a lot, they're centered around defending our homeland, standing up for our values, supporting our allies when they're in great need. But we're totally against this phony nation building and democracy building around the world. If people want us to help them with democracy, we would help them. But we have a lot of work to do here, as we discussed. Look at our democracy in Canada; it's falling apart. You talked about all these cronies and serving themselves. We have a lot of work to do here before we should be helping others, right?
Will face staunch opposition. They will shut the thing down. I'm telling you.
Who?
These bureaucrats. I mean, you're going to have they have strong unions. I mean, and so you're going to have your hands full if you could do what you're talking about.
No, we're gonna kick every table over in that parliament, and it's coming. And we've had 150 years of the same two parties in power, and this is what we get: absolute cronyism, absolute entitlement, and the way Canadians are controlled is it's like, you vote Liberal, you get fed up with them; you vote Conservative, you get fed up with the Conservative, you vote Liberal, and this is how the establishment, so-called elite, controls. It's just a duality. But the Liberals and Conservatives are two sides of the same coin. That's the way the system works. So we're going to shake it up, and we're calling on all warriors and patriots to support us and put this country first, and take on the major challenges our country's facing. Because if we don't, Brian, and you alluded to it, it's just going to lead to bankruptcy. And then all these rich people are just going to leave. The ones who've been, they already have their offshore accounts, right? And that's a problem with globalism. It has no allegiance to any country. They don't care about us. They're here to make money, to control us, and that's it. And that's what it's about. It has nothing to do with our country. And our political establishment is completely controlled. They've been bought off a long time ago. And even the honest ones, there's a few in there, they're controlled. If they don't conform, they're out. And I can go into the details of that, but it is there. It's that strict. So we need to shake this up. And the Canadian people deserve better.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, absolutely. Most definitely. So, but yeah, that's something that you might want to add. I noticed there was no defense position in your policy, so you might want to allude to that. I mean, it's important to me, but maybe at others it's not. But we do spend a lot of money on defense. The other thing is something came up that I thought was appalling. That Mr. Peacenik, our minister, was saying how he didn't want to be involved in the war in Syria. I actually supported him on that. And then he okayed the selling of $15 billion in tanks and military equipment to Saudi Arabia, which is one of the most oppressive nations. You can marry 10-year-old children in that country, for one thing. They are, in my opinion, they are behind a lot of shenanigans going on in the Middle East. And I don't think we should be supporting totalitarian dictatorships by selling them arms. What's your position on that?
Yeah, we this is again, it's jobs, and this is something morally that we can't support, even though it's going to bring jobs to London, Ontario, where they manufacture those light infantry vehicles. But the thing is, you're totally right. Saudi Arabia is a totalitarian regime. It's based on Sharia law, and if you speak against the kingdom, you'll be either killed or kicked out of the country. And if you protest, you can get your head chopped off, or again you're kicked out of the country. You can't talk any religion or politics there. The way they treat women, the way they treat gays is horrendous. And it's not only the $15 billion that arms deal, and it's tied to the conservatives and the liberals. You see how they work together, these two parties? They're just one and the same. And this is just a big charade in Canada, about how they're different, and they have everyone divided. It's divide and conquer, right? You're either a liberal or you're conservative. So this is nonsense. But I want to emphasize too, it's kind of sickening, the rhetoric coming out of this liberal, socialist, globalist government. They're talking about women rights and all this, and yet they had the Saudi ministers here, and then they ended up suppressing the human rights report on Saudi Arabia, and they're allowing us to bring in millions of barrels of Saudi oil into Canada while they're trying to suppress the oil sands in Alberta. It just doesn't make sense. You can see the globalism going on there and the hypocrisy. This is not in Canadians' best interest. We do not support the oppression of women, and these thugs, these murderous thugs in Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of evidence that they were funding ISIS through the Wahhabi. It's sickness. We just look through the layers. We have a sickness. This is, it's a malignancy in this federal government, and it's all a charade. They have all their staged town halls, the staged events, the selfies, and it's all BS. It's all nonsense. It's all control.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. I personally myself, Brian, on this, I personally couldn't sleep at night knowing I was arming murderous terrorist thugs with these things, and the harm they're doing to other people, right? Yeah. I've actually talked to other Canadians about it, and they said, well, it's their problem. Just give it to them because we're going to create money and jobs for us, right? So, where do you draw the line on your ethics on this, right?
Well, yeah, I've been an opponent of the military-industrial complex for a long time. I actually did a master's thesis on it 40 years ago when I graduated from my thesis for my master's degree. And everything about it is wrong. First of all, it's basically they're government thugs because they steal all the money, they do all the research using government money, and then it gets funneled into these corporations. They create almost no jobs with the money they get. It's the worst way to spend government money, just from that point of view, let alone the ethics. So we need a party. I'm not saying you would be it, but we need a party that develops an industrial plan to get us out of this business of selling arms. Definitely, we need to defend ourselves. I'm not against people, trading arms for our own, again, Canada first. But when it comes to selling arms to other countries, I'll tell you a story. I had a friend who worked for a business in Ottawa. He was actually an honest working businessman, worked really hard. They used to make these Airbus things, the bridges that go between the airplane and the airport. That's called it's called a bridge. But somehow they got connected with the military equipment business, and they started making helmets, military helmets. They said, we made so much more money in that business. It's cost plus, it's everything. There's so much incentive to sell and make money in that business that it pulls people out of good business and gets them into this corrupt stuff. So for me, I'm an ethics first guy. I believe in a God. I believe in goodness. I believe in love and kindness. And we, as a country, it hurts us morally and ethically to be supporting. Now, of course, we can't just pull out of it, bolus, because a lot of our economy is tied to this military complex. But I would see a 10-year transition period where we would move away from military into a green economy. Hemp is a big thing. Hemp is really a part of the economy that we haven't even started to scratch the surface of yet in Canada. So there's just something to think about. I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting point. I actually made note of it, Brian. I just want to add, because we talked about the UN. And I just want to give the audience, example here of the epitome of the corruption at the UN. We just talked about Saudi Arabia and how it's just a murderous totalitarian regime. Guess what? At the UN, who's in charge of human rights right now?
Yeah, I know.
The Saudis. The Saudis. And that just says it all. That just says it all. They're in charge of they're chair of the board on human rights. And it shows the corruption and the money. Money just talks. So why are we giving our tax dollars to this corrupt organization called the UN? Sure, it came around in 1945, and there was good purpose for it at first. But at the NA, we think it's lost its course, and it's time to start pulling our money away from that organization. And all the globalists and the socialist globalists are going to be up in arms, but we don't care. We have to do what's best for the country. In terms of defense, Brian, I just want to. We don't believe we spend enough on military to defend our country. Because if we compare us to the U.S., they're spending almost 50% of their budget on the military, and we're spending around 3%. So what would you propose? You want us to spend even less?
Well, I want to get out of the military economy altogether because it's completely unethical. In my opinion.
Right.
I think first. I mean, we can make a lot of money doing a lot of things in this world, right? Yeah. I mean, how many women are prostitutes? Do we support that? And they make a lot of money under the table. I mean, I don't support that. It's an easy way to make a living, but it's not right. And we're supposed to be representatives as a government of good ethics.
Okay.
We move from a military industrial economy, get out of that and transition into the future, which is a green economy. Because as you say, we have to do things sustainable. Eventually we have to get off oil because it isn't good, but we can replace it with hemp, alcohol, solar, green energy systems. And we can become a world leader in that area and start exporting this stuff. You see, this is what we can do. We have all this genius here, and it's all being kept back by the National Research Council. It's a joke. It's a joke. I know people who work there too. There's no creativity. I knew a guy who worked there. He's 30 years. He tested drywall for burn efficiency, whatever. They haven't changed drywall in 30 years. Why is the guy being paid to do this? I mean, come on. So we have to innovate in the direction of planet first, in my opinion. This is what I'm all about. I Am Nature is my radio show and Making a Difference TV. So it's just
Brian. Yeah, I just want to get clarity on this. Do you believe we should have a military?
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, we're going to have to fund that, right?
When I was a lobbyist, when I wrote my thesis against the military-industrial complex, I met with 50 MPs, and I said, we need our military to be on the coast of East Coast. Our fish is being stolen. Our cod fishery is being destroyed. I said, get the ships out there and kick these friggin' trawlers, these commercial trawlers that are ruining the seeding ground, or the egg, whatever you call it, the hatchery for these huge, incredibly, bountiful species. They're ruining it. They're stealing it right off our coast. I don't care if they're inside the friggin' allowable. Talk about UN bullshit. Oh, they're outside the UN limit. But it's connected to our fishery. I said, get our military ships out there and tow them out of the way if you have to. Fire a few shots over the bow. And what happened? They destroyed our cod fishery. I saw it coming. I said, do this. Use our military to protect our resources. This is what a country is supposed to do. We're not supposed to take the goddamn military and go to some other country over in the Middle East and get involved in that crap. Forget it, man. This is what we've been doing. And it destroyed our country. It's destroyed our resources. It destroyed the cod fishery. Just one example.
So you support a strong military to protect the country?
Yeah, but not to run around the world like the U.S. is doing. I'm sure.
Well, that's a different, because they're a superpower, they're an empire, and that's what they need. And but so you support spending more of our budget on the military if necessary to strengthen it?
I don't know if we have to spend more. I think we need to we have to get rid of the bureaucrats. We have a very high ratio of bureaucrats in the military to act force. I know after living in Ottawa for so long, I think we have the smallest army for bureaucracy. There's lots of colonels and captains and offices. And the other thing that pisses me off is they're constantly moving offices in Ottawa. Do you know what it costs to move a bloody department?
Wow.
And that's all they seem to want to do in Ottawa. They move one department in one place, and they're just constantly moving departments. I mean, who gives a damn where you work, right? You got an office, you go there. But they constantly waste money moving people, moving whole departments. The Defense Department, they took over the old Nortel building. I think they're in there now. But that was kind of a funny thing where they found out that the Chinese had put in cameras all over the place, and that's how they stole Nortel's technology. They put Nortel out of business. Talk about a lack of security in Canada. We got the top internet network provider in the world was taken down by Chinese labor. They built that building. We hired Chinese laborers to build most of that building because they supposedly were cheaper. This is the kind of crap that goes on in Canada. It's got to be Canada first. I agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. So we got lots of other policies, and every one of our policies is centered around Canada first. We have putting the Canadian people first. It's common sense. They're strong, bold policies. They're pragmatic. And like I said at the beginning, they're non-ideological, meaning that we will go left or right on a policy as determined by the needs of the people. We are not going to be set in one spot on the spectrum. So this gives us a lot of versatility as a party, and to allow us to do what is best for the Canadian people.
Beautiful. So when do you expect to run in an election? Are you waiting for someone to retire, or what? What's your
No, we're going to be fielding candidates. We already have some candidates selected for 2019, and we have a goal of winning at least 10 seats in 2019, so we can get our voice in Ottawa at least, and then build from there. But I'm getting calls from patriots across the country. They wanna work with us, unite with us. There's a lot of Canadians that are angered at what is going on, and this is a movement that we're creating. It's a patriotic movement, and it's about time that we have it in Canada. And what a perfect time for the National Advancement Party on the 150th anniversary of our country. And this could be a chance to redirect and to refocus and to get our country on track. And that's what we're committed to.
What if there's a by-election? Would you run?
Yeah, we will run, but we may not be as competitive, right? But we may just run to get our name out, right? So there's some by-elections coming up. We're planning to put some people in there, but most of our resources are on building the party, and we already have a strong framework for the party, but building it in all the provinces. And but our main site is on 2019, and right. we will be running in whatever riding we think we have the best chance to win, and we're going to go full bore on. If we can unite the patriots across Canada, no one's going to stop us. There's nothing stronger in this country than a Canadian patriot. They are true to the core, and I'm honored to be working with some of the people that are part of us now, and it's growing. It's a very special movement.
So your core support is out west, but are you creating any interest outside of Alberta?
Oh no, we have people across the country now. I got a call from a patriot today in Ontario. I will be doing a phone meeting with him tomorrow night, and he's well connected across the country. I don't know whether he's in the Canadian military or not, but he wants to unite with us and make this happen. He's 100% behind us. We got people in the Maritimes. We got people in Vancouver are fully behind us. People in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, every single province now, Brian. And I'm just proud to be working with these people. These people care about our country. They're patriots. A lot of them are warriors, and they will fight for our country. And as I said in other radio interviews, that we're battling for our existence. These globalists and this socialist establishment elite they're out for themselves. They're harming our country, and on so many different levels. You did an excellent articulation of the corruption in Ottawa, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm calling on all patriots and warriors to join us. When we're united, no one is going to stop us. We're going to go in there and kick every table over in Ottawa, and we're going to redirect this country. We're going to reclaim it for the Canadian people. And enough is enough.
Yeah, Ottawa should have the smallest government.
100%. But we don't use the word small.
It should be the biggest department. Everything else should be reduced dramatically.
We don't use
already. I mean, the provinces should have more power, in my opinion. The federal government should be the weakest. It's just my opinion. I mean, we've given them so much, and they do so little. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Brian. But for us, because that's an arbitrary term, small. We prefer efficient, effective government, and whatever it is to maintain, to create that efficient, effective government. It may be a medium-sized government, it may be a tiny-sized government. Whatever it is that's serving the Canadian people, but we're not just going to arbitrarily say small government, right? That's the reason we don't use that.
Yeah. No, but I'm sort of getting at the point that
we don't want to pigeonhole us like some other parties, I think the great thing about us is we're proud nationalists and we're non-ideological, as I explained. And that allows us the flexibility to do whatever is in the best interest of the Canadian people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you go down the sinkhole, you'll find out what's going on in Ottawa. Hopefully,
No, listen.
Unbelievable. I mean, I honestly, God, I never worked for the government because I work with troubled teens and stuff, and I got paid almost nothing, and I risk my life every day I'm at work. So, but that's the way. It's a different kind of work. Again, I do things as I believe in, not because of money. I should say, but it just burned me to see how much money people were making and what they were doing nothing but serving their own interests and just jobs everywhere. People would show up and look at their computer all day. That's about it. People would have a hard time even going to work, and the amount of days they get off. You should look at that. How many days? How many types of leave they have? There's no place on earth, I think, that has more leave than the Canadian government or the federal government. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, completely uncompetitive, off the charts. Anyways, I have to get going, but it's been a great interview with you, and I'm really glad that there's some people out there that are thinking and moving in I think, a positive direction. You can never agree on every policy when you're running like a national government platform, but I'd say about 80% of what I've heard I agree with 100%. So thanks so much, Stephen, for all your good work and rallying, as you say, the Patriot Canadians to do something unique and much more efficient here in Canada.
Thank you, Brian, for having me on.
All right. You take care now.